Welcome back to another fantastic episode of I'm going to talk and you're going to listen. First, I want to thank all my engagement buddies since my last episode. I'm a little not sure. Let's see, maybe yeah. Okay, here we go. A different Jimmy, not to be confused with the last Jimmy, asked if they could upload old frequency lists from UV5Rs. They asked that on my how to chirp program Baofeng episode. You absolutely can. The neat thing about chirp is that it's basically just an Excel spreadsheet, and as far as I can tell, the whole entire UV5R family has exactly the same layout and formatting and columns, and so you can literally just open up the programming from 180 radio, hit Control A, Control C, Control A, select all, Control C is copy, and then if you have the tab open from the other radio, just put the cursor up on the top left and hit Control V for paste. And it's that simple. I thought I showed that. Maybe I didn't show that. But eventually you kind of get into a rhythm of like, if you have to program 100 radios, like let's say you effed something up and did like one channel wrong and have to go redo like 100 radios. If you just line up the family of radios, like have all the UV5Rs in a line and have all the 5RMs in a line. And as long as everybody puts like their own little sticker or their some initials or something on the radios, you just hand them back. But you just connect the next radio in the same family, hit upload. It automatically uploads that set. And since it's the same family, you don't even have to sync it and download and check and upload and stuff. It just works. And you could program 100 radios a night that way, as long as you like line the families of radios up, which you only really even, well, you need to do that because Chirp still needs to know which type of radio it's talking to load, but the kind of the spreadsheet and the format stay the same. So you can literally load 100 radios a night that way with no problem. Hudson Valley says hi. He lost his channel for a few days. I was watching live when it happened. He AFK'd to have to take a personal phone call, and his chair was on screen for a few minutes. And I don't know if we'll ever know the real reason, but like his channel got blocked and locked for a while. He eventually got it taken care of, though. Thank goodness. And just a reminder to always rally around other YouTubers when they're going to lose their channel, because you can't even let one YouTuber lose their channel, or eventually we'll all lose our channels, whether you like them or agree with them or not. Bocktard says hi. Yeah, Mousetrap Mondays, or the popular Mousetrap channel is one of the most like heavily kind of harassed channels, and basically can't show anything anymore, despite their content being okay for years. And another channel, Survival Living, showed like cleaning fish, and him just cleaning the fish that he caught was always getting him in trouble. And it's just like, YouTube is just so ridiculous. So prairie dogs, yeah, disappear. I do. Cucumber Farmer says hi, and another Jimmy says, oh, talking about manufacturing. Yeah, the thing is, a lot of manufacturing is going to move to the U.S. because of the tariffs, but It's all going to be automated. It's all going to be AI. I think UPS just cut a lot of jobs. Yeah, yeah, UPS just cut 20,000 jobs. Um, the I think Intel just laid off a bunch more people. Like the layoffs are insane, absolutely insane. Um, CNN is like UPS is cutting 20,000 jobs. It's not what you think. No, it is what I think. Don't tell me it is or isn't what I think. CNN. Um, I think that we're in big trouble. The tech bros that have the big brains, the real tech bros, were able to roll off, from Intel or the Google. And I'm sure Apple layoffs are imminent too. They're all able to just roll off into their own startups. But as Tech Lead keeps pointing out, like we're even going to be failing as a consumer based society soon, and we're just going to slip under the waves and not come out for a while. So, they only need one person to run a manufacturing plant. You only need one person now to run like an entire manufacturing plant. You don't even need the lights on. And so I'm kind of afraid is not the right word, but I'm concerned that we are actually like shockingly close, because I think Japan just threatened to cash in a bunch of our T-bills, a bunch of our bonds. There's like $1 billion or $1 trillion or something in Treasury. Japan threatens to sell off Treasury. One oak. Oh, Japan threatens to offload $1 trillion in U.S. Treasury holdings, and that's the thing. Is like, I don't remember if I talked about this a long time ago, but I remember talking. I remember somebody saying like China's buying up. Well, they were buying up all of our debt, but I think I didn't know what that meant at the time. But they can just threaten to cash in our debt and just tank us, cash in our T-bills, cash in our treasury holdings, which is like buying our debt. And if our interest rate sucks, it's not worth anything anyway. And if we are just printing money and that money doesn't have any value, blah blah blah. So the U.S. is in more dire is in a more dire situation than it has been in a long time. Uh, I think all the West Coast ports are basically shut down. Um, the last of the warehouses of pre-tariff China stuff is very very quickly running out. Um, I think by this summer, if the whole tariff thing doesn't magically go away somehow, which sounds very ominous because something horrible could happen, like another Rona outbreak, which is what broke this the last time. We're gonna be we the U.S. are gonna be hurting really bad, because they can't say haha, Orange Man can't just say haha, I was just joking about the tariff thing, because the rest of the world's not joking about it. They all hedged against this, and we have no leverage anymore. Bringing back manufacturing still does help us, but not in the way of employing anybody. It helps us because we have domestic manufacturing again, but we still need like things like oil refineries. Like, we could just hunker down and ride this out if we could make our own chips, if we could refine our own oil. We could ride this out. but it's not looking good. I don't see that happening. I don't think Orange Man bought us 4 more years. I think we're in the last of it right now. And so I liked what Jimmy says. He says, "What is everyone expecting? Factories of old, filled with human workers. You know you can't work as efficiently or as cheaply as robotic assembly lines. So what? Are you asking for the American industry to slow down for you?" And it's just so true. And the gap between the ultra rich and everybody else is getting bigger and bigger. But I still only think that's a symptom of the fact that the richy riches can repeatedly capitalize on the dips. I think it's just so misconstrued. Oh, the top person at McDonald's makes more than the bottom person at McDonald's. It's like, well, even if you divided it all out, it would still be like a penny for everybody. There'd be no incentive to ever run a company if they didn't make ludicrous amounts of money and absorb tons of risk. The issue is with the banks, especially, and with insurance, especially, the entire system is hedged against them always being able to come out on top no matter what. Whereas with corporations, it's not the same. But with the automakers, like Burger King could fold and a shit ton of people would be unemployed, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. It would be bad, but it wouldn't be world ending. Whereas, like, if Uber shut down, if Uber Eats, if any of that gig work, if that shut down, that would just like carve the top off of everybody's income that they're using to bridge month to month, especially with how many people are behind on their credit, behind on their mortgage, behind on their student loans now. So you might have a distribution center open up somewhere, and that might employ people for a little while, but it isn't going to be too long before those distribution centers are automated. And it isn't going to be too long before the automation centers that make the automation are automated. And we're just going to have a mountain of defaulted debt. Here's the thing, though, back to my point. The banks are still going to be bailed out. Insurance is still going to be bailed out. Right? This is why I keep going back to there needs to be a universe that exists where failure is an option. We've been bailing everybody out for so long. Social Security. We've been disability and homeless and the illegals and Medicare and Medicaid. Like, it's all going to have to fail at some point. It's going to have to reset at some point. We can't prop it up forever. It's not like Bitcoin or gold that can just, or rich people that can just ride it out every time. There isn't going to be a riding it out because there isn't going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. You might work for a place that builds the next distribution center, but that's going to employ you for a couple months? How many distribution centers can you build in an area before you're out of work? It's the same thing with data centers. I used to argue till I was blue in the face about arguing with legislative level, like state level accounts, federal level accounts on Twitter. I think that's that's how I remember it anyway. And just they created so many accounts, data center accounts, jobs. Data centers created so many jobs. It's like they're high paying data. What was it? Data centers created 10 million new jobs or something. It was some data centers contributed 4.7 million jobs. No, they didn't. Someone went and they built a data center, then they were unemployed again. Then they built 1 or 2 data centers, and then they were unemployed again. Nobody mans those things. And then you go look at Tech Republic, and it's like, why data centers failed to bring new jobs to small towns? Well, because someone comes in from out of town, builds it, and then leaves and goes to the next one. It's not a standalone. It's not like building a gas station. Although even a gas station, that'll maybe employ like 2 people. It says Tech Republic says, while a typical company headquarters can have between 200 and 1,000 jobs on site, the number of jobs in an average data center is usually capped at 30. That was back from 2014. I'm sure it's even less than that now. It's probably maybe not even 5. So we're in big trouble. And the ultra rich will be able to capitalize on it, but I think that I don't think that's indicative of some larger like conspiratorial wealth gap. I think that's just an advent of how these systems work. Typically, we have to sell things when we're hurt really bad. I mean, everyone's melting down their family heirlooms right now. Right? That's only creating an increased wealth gap because the poors can't ride out another recession. So, but we can talk more about that later. I think it's an interesting topic. On my talk with Grok, Tuck asks, can you be reactive and drag a team along with you? Talking about getting called into management to explain why a project's not being done. It's been my experience that management, when they're going to pull you into the office, stacks the deck against you. And even if they pull in your whole team, they're going to throw you under the bus anyway. You have to kind of always be ready, and it's never going to be enough because they're always going to have the deck stacked against you. So you got to just be ready to absorb it and then redirect it and say, you're asking me to do 2 different things. Which thing is the most important? We're only getting one of them done. And if they say, well, you got to get 2 done simultaneously, you can just say, well, I've never been able to get 2 done simultaneously before. So if you're not going to add help, only one of these is going to get done, or tell me which one you need to get done first. And having a whole team doesn't really help you. What would help you is if you know that manager tends to listen to somebody else, or if there's somebody else that's like better at interpreting it that can speak whatever language they speak, that can definitely help. Because if someone calls you in the office and they're always just going to automatically diminish and disregard everything that you're saying, then that could help you. And RCR says hi. And CDK, my number 1 engagement buddy, says hi. So hello everybody. That concludes part 1 of me going through all the engagement stuff. I want to thank everyone for saying hi and leaving their comments.
Found a bunker deep in the woods. Supplies stacked high, it feels so good. Hiding out neath the leafy hood. Gonna help others try to get through.
Alright, welcome back. I don't know how this is gonna work. I'm outside. It's not a terrible day. Choo choo. It's not a terrible day out. But I mean, there's just like massive storms in every direction and just massive winds blowing through. I don't remember last spring being like this. I remember there being a cold snap, but I don't remember like it just being like storm after storm after storm. I remember there being one big like south to north storm at like one point, but this is just like this is just getting slammed from the coast over and over and over again. The winter is really trying to fight the summer here. It's like being stuck in like a shear. That's always what I imagine it like you're stuck at the razor's edge of like a saw blade. If the weather was like a giant saw blade. And it's the cat wants to come outside. It's made growing things hard. It's made me start second guessing way more than I used to, like what's gonna grow and what's not gonna grow and when it's gonna grow. It's just a lot of uncertainty, and I think that just adds to the overall uncertainty of everything. But I think maybe sometimes I act like there's a lot of doom and gloom, but there's still a way through this. There are still jobs out there. There are still going to be jobs. They're just not going to necessarily be service jobs. Like, I think a lot of it's going to be sales, which isn't fun. But I think if you're competitive and you have a sales attitude, I still think you're not only going to be able to survive, but you're going to be able to thrive. I think sales is going to be huge. You might be like, but nobody's going to buy anything. Nobody's going to buy anything. Well, like insurance. In times of uncertainty, people are going to be ramping up their insurance, and let's just pretend, for example, like a war kicks off between India and Pakistan, even if it only lasts for 5 minutes. If it disrupts all the call centers, they're gonna, maybe there's a massive unemployed population in the US that's all stuck at home. They could all jump back on their phones and provide some tech support, provide some call center stuff, because people will work for dirt cheap as long as they get to stay at home, and that actually like helps them hedge some of that. You're not spending as much on gas and stuff. And if they kick all the illegals out, maybe car insurance will finally come down. But like car insurance, home insurance, mortgage, and like all of that level of service is still like extremely competitive. even if all the banks are going like automated, you know, a lot of the auto dialer stuff, like, I'm a big proponent of the FCC, like, in some regards. And, you know, if they can keep clamping down on the abuse of the phone systems, and we can go back to using phone systems for, you know, their intended purpose, which is, you know, calling people and actually conducting business. Well, you know, besides saying hi to each other, obviously. You know, the US could get back into supporting itself and calling and talking to people when they need to, and working on your insurance and helping you with your taxes and stuff. You know, pulling each other up by the bootstraps and helping people with car loans and things. And usually when the economy goes down, a lot of that infrastructure still exists. And back during the last big crash, that was the only job I could find. And it started off good. It ended up kind of scammy. But, like, US-based call centers still have a really big role to play. A lot of people only want to talk to, you know, English, clear-ish English-speaking Americans. They don't want to talk to Pradeep Kumar pretending to be Thomas. You know, you're already being lied to about that. What else are they lying to you about? How do you know? Like I've said before, how do you really know that you're talking to T-Mobile? You actually have no idea if you're actually talking to T-Mobile or not. Not when they're sending you to 3 different web pages from 3 different email addresses. T-Mobile really screwed up. You know, then you go to the T-Mobile office and they can't answer any questions, and they tell you to talk to ChatGPT when you get home. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that's going to exist still for quite a long time. And so I still think there's room to survive and even thrive if you're competitive. You know, a lot of people said get into the trades. But I can't remember who said it. It was funny. They were like, you don't need 10 you don't need 10 plumbers. You just need one plumber. And so there is that. I don't know. I think the other thing that I wanted to say in that regard is being able to grow your own food is still a hedge. Being able to, you know, get your own eggs from your own little velociraptors is like a good hedge. All of those things are good hedges against inflation, and that's what you want. You want to not have to buy things when prices are up. That's why the rich keep getting richer. Well, that, and they have FU money and don't really care about what things are priced. But a lot of things are priced to just fleece the living hell out of rich people. And you might say, well, they never pay taxes because they have this and that and tax accountants and... Sorry, there's a plane going by apparently because rich people and their Cessnas getting in their flight time. But, like, there's a whole economy around serving rich people. There's a whole economy around serving the working class. And if you're creative, you don't have to be a part of the cog. You can be, you know, cog support. Cog support. Providing all the little knickknacks and things that people need. Like supplemental life insurance and term life, and I don't know, all those like little things that people need that sound like pyramid schemes, but in actuality you're providing people a service, you know. You're providing the people that are still employed support, basically. Um, and so I think there's still some room there. And then it's the same thing with, you know, like I said, growing food and stuff. Anything you can do like that, you're going to be one little itty bitty step ahead. And if you can swing it now, it's going to sound crazy, but like buying a tractor, you know, getting a riding lawnmower. I've said this before, but it's been a long time, but like having like supporting level like equipment like that, especially if it's something you can service, not something that has had like right to repair stripped away, but like you have a piece of equipment that other people don't have, which means you can be a part of a functioning community and a part of a functioning economy. And one example there that I've brought up before is I don't have a pickup truck here. Everybody else has a pickup truck. I'm at a marked disadvantage by not having a pickup truck. When you're out here, you're expected to have one. You also need to have a riding lawnmower or know somebody else that has one. You need to have a tractor. You need to know someone else that has one. And all the people that are coming here to these brand new subdivisions by the hundreds don't have any of that. And they might, well, they may not even be able to put any of it to good use, but they have. But what does the beginning and end of every single town have now? A public store, some kind of a storage facility. And it was my brother's plan a while ago, until I think what he did ended up winding down, unfortunately, is, you know, he wanted to save up enough to put down his own storage facility, because storage facilities are like printing money. That's like another example. And if people stop paying, you just auction it all off and then just keep going. And if you look at the beginning and end of every single town, there's storage facilities on both ends. Sometimes two. And if there's 3 ways out of a town, there's storage facilities in every direction. Now, you're right, that storage facility actually might not even employ anybody anymore. Those have little kiosks, and you hope some little bastard doesn't destroy it. But a lot of those things are just self-running. Someone comes, swipes a card. Someone might have to show up and give them a key or something, but or whatever. But I mean, those are almost just completely self-serve, so they don't really employ anybody, and people may go build them up for a couple weekends and then move on and go build another. They don't bring in a lot of jobs, but what they do is they bring you in a passive income. Just like working for an insurance company is going to bring you a little bit of a passive income. You do insurance for a little bit of the week, you find a couple of other things to do for the rest of the week. You just keep plugging away and learn to weld, or learn to, I don't know. But I don't have all the answers, but I do know there's a way through this. And one of the reasons why I'm so stinking exhausted is I spend every spare ounce of energy I have trying to bring in as absolutely much money as I can, because, well, I mean, being out here, these people have generational wealth, but it's not in the terms of money, it's in terms of all the hardware and land they have. Most of them were born into this than just through like brute force hard work. They've been able to keep it going. And watching them work is amazing. It's like watching a bunch of army ants. And they seem to just have infinite energy and they just never stop. And I don't feel like I'm in competition with them. But I do need to be showing that I'm putting in the effort as much as I can. But they've also seen a lot of this 100 times. Whereas, I've gardened, north of here a couple 100 miles. I've gardened south of here a couple 100 miles, give or take. But everywhere you garden, everywhere you try to grow stuff, everywhere you try to farm is just a little bit different, and it takes a long time. And I've never dealt with wind before. Like, I've dealt with wind here, and I've had to completely rethink, like, this shed gets hit with wind so hard, it actually looks like the wind is starting to, like, shift this shed off of all the stuff that's built up underneath it. Like, it looks like a couple big more wind gusts could just blow this thing off the blocks that it's standing on. Because whoever built this didn't have the foresight to go build that shed facing into the wind. And, like, not go build it into this little nook here or something. I don't know. Anyway. Whereas, like, I'm wondering about this stuff, and the neighbors just put up a brand new shed, for example. And I have to spend, like, what I would consider insane amounts of money on some dirt, and they have big backhoes and big tractors, and they can just scoop up dirt from one part of the property and bring it to another part of the property, and they have an infinite, dirt cheat code. So it's interesting. I don't know. It's all interesting, and a lot of it is just about having the energy to be able to capitalize on the opportunities. So, for example, there is just a giant stack of dirt. I've probably already told you guys this. There was just a giant stack of dirt in the front yard left from some construction. And I went and grabbed it all. And it's enough dirt to make another planter box, to make the bedding of another planter box. And they dug this dirt up with, a big backhoe from way down deep. So, it had lots of worms and stuff in it. And what I always tell myself is, if you see worms in it, it's good dirt. That's what I always tell myself. But it's just about having the energy to be able to convert it, and stir it up and mix it up and stuff. And I'm really leery of asking the neighbors for any help, just because they've always got just a million projects, and they never want my help ever. And they have a whole army, so my help is laughably pathetic. I just offer absolutely nothing to them, and they just kind of laugh at everything that I say. So until I can really prove myself around here, it kind of just looks like I'm experimenting. But I'm kind of okay with that, because that is kind of like what I'm doing. This is all kind of a big figuring out what works and figuring out what doesn't work, and then trying to share it all. One of my biggest beefs when I was getting into all this farming, gardening stuff again, is those celebrity chucklehead YouTuber gardeners. It's like, of course you can make some giant thing, man. You're spending thousands of dollars on dirt and compost, and you have all your affiliate links to sell all your dirt and compost to other people and make, you got your infinite money glitch going on because you've got a million followers that you can super advertiser friendly, feel good jerk off content, jerk off garden content. We can sit there and run your finger through the dirt and hold your tomato and make thousands of dollars, because people think if they buy your $100 bag of bone meal, which is a fucking joke, that they're somehow going to make the same tomatoes as you. And it's like, oh no, you also need to buy my $100 bag of blood meal, and oh no, you need to buy my $100 bag. No, it's like, it's so insane. Yeah, having good dirt's important, having compost is important, but the videos that I have found the most use in is like people teaching you how to prune properly. Like, some of this stuff is just like no brainer. Like, I put in this kale thing. I put kale everywhere. This stuff just gets massive and it's unkillable. I'm starting to legitimately wonder if kale is an invasive weed. Like, no joke, I have like 7-foot tall kale things. And that was just for me putting a seed in the ground and not even knowing what kale was, other than everyone's like, kale's one of the things that you throw in your garden no matter what. But everybody hates kale. I don't even know how to eat kale. I don't even know what part of it's edible, but it kind of goes hand in hand with my thought processes that you have to find what works where you are plant-wise. You have to find what likes your area. And I still have a couple carrots from last year. I have some god-awful giant onions or something from last year that are starting to look like dinosaur plants. I didn't pull them out of the ground. The potatoes from last year have already restarted. I don't even know why I bothered to pull them out of the ground last winter. And And these kale are like 7 feet tall. So it's kind of funny where it's like you kind of have to experiment, and you kind of have to try a bunch of things, and you kind of have to ask the neighbors, and hey, what's that, what grows, what doesn't grow. And I saw them growing grapes, and so I'm trying grapes. And if the deer hadn't eaten my grapes, they'd be doing better. Blueberries, apples, pears, cherries, blackberries, raspberries. All of those things that you can get going and get established, it's going to be different from your area, but all of that stuff that's like set it and forget it, you don't have to sit there and like jerk off like all these celebrity farmers and gardeners do. You can focus a little bit more on making sure tomatoes, making sure your tomato sproutlings are working properly for you and are going to be strong enough, and get them planted in the right sunlight, and then prune the little suckers off properly so they don't grow back into the ground, and making sure air is flowing through them properly. But you don't need anything special to do that. And then it's about making sure you've got strong enough trellises for your cucumbers, and however it is you're going to do zucchini. I'm going to try to do pumpkins too, but like I spent hours trying to direct sow corn, and I don't think it's going to work. And my neighbor laughed at me, and it kind of bummed me out, because it's like, well, dude, if you know how to do corn, can't you just tell me? Can't you guys just tell me how you do corn here? Like, I don't want to do a bunch of corn in pots and then come try to plant all the corn out here. Ideally, what you want is in a shit is the fan, is you want to figure out what you can direct sow, like what seeds you can just put in the ground and set them and forget them. But it does have to be warm. And that's the problem. We keep having a warm day and then a cold day and then a warm day and a cold day. And it's really got me thinking that from what I understand about corn, the kernel has to get the seed. It has to get warm and wet so it's soft, so the little so the little sproutling can escape and go on its merry way. And I was getting them wet, but I was seeing like how cold can this be? How warm does it have to be? Can I just direct sow these? And so it's like, does it matter, if I put in bone meal with them? Does it matter if I fertilize them? Tried a bunch of different ones, and like none of them came up. But I think it's just too stinking cold. We're in May now, and it's still getting 40 degrees at night. And I've also started thinking, like, I like to get the bags of heirloom seeds. I am really starting to thinking that you need to get a new bag of heirloom seeds every year, provided the shit has not hit the fan, in which case you're going to have to do a lot of seed trading. Because like even in controlled conditions, half my seeds from my seed bags last year aren't taking hold. And all the little tomato sproutlings are just getting fried. And if food production ever stopped, if commercial food production, commercial ag ever stopped, the starvation would be catastrophic. When the shit hits the fan, people off their beds are going to be the first die off, and civil unrest is going to be, a big issue. But starvation is just going to be insane because, like, I still don't have a rototiller. And I think if you want to have a legitimate shot at ag, you've got to really have a rototiller. Because direct sowing into compacted ground that cows and dinosaurs have been walking on for thousands of years. There's a reason why, like, this wheat grass is the only thing that grows out here. It's like, I'm really interested in if somehow that corn wakes up, because by now, last year, when I had the corn in like little pods, it was already like 6-8 inches tall. And then I direct sowed more and it all caught up. But I'm a dummy and I didn't keep notepads of when I started it and how warm it was. In a prolonged grid down, you've got to write down everything if you're going to have any chance of replicating your crops from year to year, because the farmer's almanac doesn't help you anymore. After the last frost, that's cool, but it's still 40 at night. Like, all your stuff is just gonna stay teeny tiny sproutlings until like June, because there's just no sun. We had like a week again where it was like sunny again, but now it's just like really overcast. Like, nothing's gonna grow in this. And certainly not warm enough to wake the little seedlings up. You've really got to get a greenhouse. And you got to make sure it's really, 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 really windproof. I don't know if you can hear that, but the wind just kicked up again. I gotta say, like, the wind is infinitely more demoralizing than the rain and the clouds. And I've really started to wonder if that's why the last people left here. I mean, yeah, there was no work left for them, and they weren't from here anyway. And they really weren't cut out for this lifestyle. But I really wonder if, like, the wind was the final thing, because this wind is unforgiving. With such a beautiful area, and I think I feel like one of these days the wind just cuts off, and then there's no wind for like 4 months, unless a big storm rolls through. This wind is just nuts. It is funny to watch the neighbor's horse pose in the wind, though. No, she's taking a giant leak now. But the horse has got this one spot that she loves to lay in, and she wakes up in the morning and goes out to her one spot and lays in the one spot all day. And she's huffing and gruffing and stomping and shaking. Oh, she's looking at me. But she always just goes out there and poses and just lays in her spot. I don't know. There was another point I wanted to make. I think it had to do with exhaustion. There's always that meme that says, like, your kids are never gonna thank you for missing all their birthday parties because you were making more money, or something like that. And you do have to find, literally, you do have to find some way to have some kind of a work-life balance. But you also have to remember that you're competing with people who will sacrifice everything to get even 0.01% ahead, because those are the margins of success versus failure that we have now. You know, one more solar panel could be the difference of keeping your fridge and freezer on or not. You know, being able to put another gallon or two of gas in your tank could be the difference of getting home and a shit hits the fan. The margins of error for success and failure are becoming very, very narrow and thin, especially with insurance going through the roof, especially with, man, the power bills of all of the people unfortunate enough to have private electricity companies. It's unreal. You could, like, not even use your electricity and you can still have your bill triple or quadruple. I've seen people's electricity bills, and it could be like a whole giant chunk of a paycheck just to, like, keep the lights on. Not to mention if you have a vehicle repair, or some of these people spend crazy amounts of money just to keep their pet alive a little bit longer instead of just learning when to let it go. Well, it's your emotional support pet. Man, I've lost emotional support pets too. Like, that's kind of the way of the universe. People still have to be willing to let go and understand that they're going to need a new emotional support pet, and that your emotional support pet also needs you to be pragmatic and show empathy and grace and courage and a bunch of other words I can't think of right now. Mercy. Of course, tell my cats about mercy when they're turning a mouse into a pin cushion that ran into the house, because it's stupid. Anyway, back to the whole mousetrap thing. People that refuse to have cats in their houses because they're just anti-cat or whatever, man, the mice are gonna eat your shit inside out. Mice never sleep, man, and they destroy everything. I can't remember if oh, that's right, I put it in my bunker book rebranding. But I was practicing growing tomato saplings, tomato sproutlings in different spots. And yeah, something came through and ate the tips. I'm sure it was a mouse because I had them up really high. And they came through and they nibbled just the tips off of every single tomato sprouting that I had. I only had like 4 in there because it was an experiment. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, oh, I'm never doing that again. So, those things never sleep, man. They'll eat anything. You gotta have cats. At least indoors. Like your cat, yeah, your cats could just go destroy all your plants too, so that's kind of a whole deal, but you can grow your plants indoors and keep them safe until the weather changes, then have your cats guard your plants. And then have a couple plants that are resilient enough to deal with your cats thrashing them around, like corn. The cats absolutely destroyed the corn last year. And every day the corn, I just propped the things back up and put the dirt back in them, and the corn came back every day. I've never seen a plant so resilient in my life than the cats just destroying the corn constantly and it coming back every day. So I think I wanted to talk more about burnout and stuff, but I kind of don't even know what to say about it. You have to be more resilient than everybody else because that's how you get ahead. And my boss is out. My boss has been out a lot for 2 years. He's going through hell, his own personal hell. But because I've been able to maintain a semblance of resilience, I have potentially been able to get ahead, but it has been a lot of sacrifice. And I think I can come out of this ahead. We'll see. If I did, it'll all be worth it. And I don't know if there's some cool name for it, but you have to do like an overwhelming amount of effort to like move the needle sometimes. And I've noticed this a lot. It's like this with how much energy it takes to create speed, you know. After a while you have to like, once your vehicle or, you know, your jet or something reaches like a certain speed, you have to like double the power output to be able to, you know, go faster because of drag and blah blah blah. And rockets are the same way. And you know, radio power, you have to like triple your wattage to like double your output. You know, it's like, it seems like you have to have like 3 times the solar panels, you know, to get the power that you want. This rule seems to like govern the universe. And it's almost like there's no way to cheat. You have to like prove that you're significantly ahead to earn forward progression, to prove, I guess, that it's not a fluke, I guess, to prove that you didn't just do it once, you know, Is it repeatable? Is it sustainable? Okay, great, you did one project, now do two. Now, of course, you have to make sure that people aren't taking advantage of you just wanting it really bad, but you're also growing and learning and becoming more resilient as you go. I think they want to make sure that they're not putting you in a position where you're just going to fold. And I guess I'll end with this thought. I've never seen so many people fold and just curl up into a ball in my life. You might think that everybody employed right now is doing fine because they've got money and income and stuff. But there is still just so many people that are just doing jack shit at work. Just doing nothing. And there's no consequences. And again, like I've said in the past, all the people that go, there's consequences when you work on the private side. No, there's not. Between the nepotism and people that know the skeletons in the closet and people that are really good dick suckers, there's no consequences on the private side for people fucking off for years and years and years, all the way up to the top. And just because those people are making money, and just because those people aren't doing shit all day, doesn't mean that they're really in any better of a situation than you. The people that seem happy all day, they're most likely not happy. They're most likely on metric shit tons of drugs, or they're retarded. And I don't know if this successfully ties all of my thoughts together, but the gal the other day with the kid in the park that flipped off the people from Haiti or wherever, it wasn't fucking Haiti, wherever it was, she flipped them off and called them the no word. And then last night she was at like $500,000 in fundraising, which was a direct backlash of the person of a certain ethnicity that stabbed the football guy in the chest and killed him. You know, he raised like $500,000. Well, this gal raised $500,000 even faster. I mean, we're racing closer to a race war than we have in a while again. Both sides are becoming even more galvanized. Even though I am like really burnt out and I am really super tired, and there was something I really, really, really wanted to do today and didn't get to. And I'm looking at this yard and I'm seeing all the things I need to do and seeing all the things I want to do. I'm at peace. I'm burnt out and I'm freaking exhausted. But I've also kind of got like a sustainable cadence of exhaustion. Does that make sense? I'm not getting more exhausted. I've kind of found my exhaustion equilibrium. I have just enough barely spare energy to deal with one minor emergency here and there. And then if I have any extra energy, I go try to work on the garden a teeny tiny bit. Oh, the big crow. Man, the crows here are massive. Things are like freaking dragons, I swear. And I think finding that equilibrium, finding that peace, finding that tranquility and that level-headedness, operating in a burnt out husk shell of yourself is not good, because you're by no means emotionally available for anything, and you come off as a raging asshole constantly. But you've kind of reached this sustainable equilibrium, kind of, where it's like, I may not be available now, but at least I know I'm not going to fall apart, right? And where I think a lot of society is now is they're falling apart. They don't know if they're coming or going. Their dumbasses are going back to the office. They don't even know why. They don't know if shit's going to change 2 days from now, and they're so worried about Orange Man, and they want to go protest for this and that in Palestine, and the Troons, and the zero IQ fucking ferals running around. They're sitting there just waiting to be told what the next thing to be frizzle fried about is. There's another plane. The plane. They don't know. And so just with the whole DEI thing, these people were gaslit into believing that the corporations and shit all believed in this DEI stuff, and that the federal government believed in DEI and the state level, and that all the that all the and Pride Month is coming up, and they realized that DEI, they were totally played. DEI doesn't exist. It's something that it's marketing that somebody just made up one day. I'm not talking about people in wheelchairs, obviously. Like, so many people thought the D in diversity meant disability, and it's like, no, people in wheelchairs aren't going to have their ramps taken away. That's insane. They're not going to have their bigger sized bathroom stalls taken away. Everyone still has to be ADA compliant. That's not people like really believe that. I had my blood drawn from a gal that was in a wheelchair the other day. That's not going away. But the diversity hire stuff went away like overnight. And I think it's things like that that really shake the shit out of the core of the progressive left. I think in a few months, the food's going to start disappearing from the shelves. They're going to fucking lose their minds again. Probably going to blame Orange Man. Here locally, they finally, I think, built the case and charged the people that had been attacking the grid the last time, 2 years ago. I don't know if they caught the people that were attacking the Tesla parts of the grid yet, but people are always trying to take the grid down. The left is just going to lose its mind, man, because they're always sitting there waiting to be told what to freak out about next. They have no resilience. They're motivated by fear, and they're motivated by reactions. They'll force people into reacting and then attack them based on the reactions that they force them into. That's how they operate. And then they just gaslight people and then attack them anyway. So maybe what I'm trying to say is, like, find your happy place and be okay with your happy place, and then work your way out from there. If your friends are real friends, if your family are real family, they'll wait for you to come out the other side. And if you're honest with them and they don't get it, fuck them. Especially family. Family is just blood. And a lot of times they're just enemies that you're unfortunately related to. If they don't get it, they don't show up and they don't put up, and they're only there when it's convenient for them, or when they need to offload shit, or when they need to emotionally dump on you. They may be your family, but they're not allies. You need people that are on the same vibe as you. And that might mean that they have kids and you don't. And that might mean that they're interested in things that you aren't. But if you can find people that you can vibe with, even if you completely disagree with them. I was talking to somebody on Twitter that I really look up to, and I thought I said something they would totally agree with, and they just completely said exactly the opposite, and I just hearted it and didn't say anything back, even though I think they're categorically wrong. And I think if they would have thought about it for a little bit, they would have understood what I was trying to say. Especially since maybe it was just semantics on how much of a target smaller towns actually are, or maybe we were just misconstruing the overall value of a small town versus a larger town or a city. But either way, like, maybe we weren't even really disagreeing with each other. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding, or maybe it was just semantics. But if you understand and respect each other, you just go, okay, well, maybe I misunderstood them, maybe they misunderstood me, but you can still vibe. I used to call it operating in the same AO. You know, I used to have a lot of so-called friends, and I started to realize I think they were only keeping me around to just make fun of me. I was the ass of all the jokes, and then the other side was just keeping me around because I would just do whatever it was they wanted to do. So I was like a kind of an extra, you know, I added a lot of value, but I don't think they ever saw the value. And I've always been just a crazy amount of an enabler to begin with, because I'm always learning stuff and I like to do things. And if someone else wants to do things, then I want to do the thing. And that's how I've always been. Maybe I just got that from my dad. I don't know. But sooner or later, when you're just everybody's friend all the time, you get taken advantage of. And I think part of that's why I've had to just let my neighbors do their own thing. And I try to do my own thing, and they just never ask me for help. And I think those are healthy boundaries. It's obviously suboptimal because you're not all working in the same direction and you get behind and stuff, but it allows you to work in maybe another direction if you want. I don't know. You can still both have common goals of surviving, and you don't have to agree or disagree. You just kind of both. Everyone has to just kind of keep plugging away. I think if everyone just keeps plugging away and they find their vibe and they find their happy place, the hummingbird keeps coming over here. If everyone just vibes and finds their happy place and they find their comfort zone. And if everyone's just patient with each other, we'll all kind of find our own way there. I don't think anybody has the right answer right now. I think we're all equally screwed. But maybe by divesting our efforts, one of us will find the answer, then the rest will be able to latch onto it. In the back of my mind, I still think that there's going to be a lot of people losing their houses. And I want it to be a strong, hard, firm rock this time around. Because I lost all my friends when I lost my house last time. I was seen as a second-class fucking loser when I lost my house last time. The last big crash. And I don't want to ride through this to be like, haha, I showed everybody. I want to ride it through this time so that the friends I've made along the way don't have to suffer like I did, my new friends. My old friends, they couldn't even be bothered to say hi. Every once in a while, I just didn't add any value to them anymore. No house and no money and tagging along but having nothing to offer. They find bigger, better friends with more money and more energy. But I never lost my drive. I just lost my energy, and I've just had to pace myself more. I'm just at a different pace now. But I'm still super proud of this place. I've got 4 gardens. They're just not Gucci, Hollywood, or YouTube celebrity gardens, but they're gardens. I've got a lot to be proud of here. There's a lot of work to do, but I have a feeling that all the work that I'm putting in at work and these other income streams is going to pay off this time. Because I'm not working my ass off to get stuff now. Although that there's a little bit of that. I'm working my ass off now to be able to ride through the next collapse. That is the mistake that I made the last 3 freaking crashes. If I had saved every penny, I might have been able to ride it out through the last 3 crashes. And if my side gigs had worked and stuff, but that's 20 years of my life I'm never going to get back. But what do the prepper channels always say? You know, you get to keep your education, you get to keep your experience, you get to keep the things that you learned. And I have been able to do that. I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago, or 15 or 10 or even 5 years ago. Like, I have dramatically grown and expanded my understanding and my capacity. I just need the energy. But like I said, I'm at a nice even keel. And as long as everyone's patient with me, it'll be fine. I feel like there was... I think too, for all this to come full circle, talking about the difference between the riches and the poors, being able to ride out this next crash means being able to make real moves. Because you can only make really, really, really big moves during the crashes. And that's what separates the poors from the riches. As being prepared to ride out and make moves during the crashes. And being able to help and support as many people as you can. That way you're not at the mercy or lack thereof of everybody else. So, being here is the perfect place to be. Now I just need my side gigs to work out. So, if you stay to the end, this is usually when I tell you how my side gig stuff is going. My art book is like 99% done. I just need to... I think I'm just throwing a couple extra images in there at the end, but I don't even know necessarily if I want to do that. I'm not sure. I might go look at it and just pump the brakes on it and release it. Even if I only sell 1 or 2 copies, at least I tried. I'm going to be pulling the hardbound and paperback versions of bunker codes soon, within the next couple weeks. And I'm going to be re-releasing the paperback as Bunker Basics. And I think only 2 people have copies of my collector's edition, and that's going to be a collector's edition, and that's going to be it, because I'm shutting it off. And if you got one, then good for you. The 2 people that grabbed copies of it, and I really appreciate you both. The art will live on in the art book. There's 3 or 4 exclusive chapters that I might release in the future. I'm not sure. They were all based around religion, and I don't know what I'm very strongly still thinking about having a second bunker book. If I do, I'll re-release the religious stuff in the second one, and I want to write a whole chapter about riots in the next one. But we'll see. But bunker codes, bunker basics is over 100k words, and it's it feels like it's in a really good spot. I was actually thinking about adding more chapters to it, but I was like, you know what? I actually think this is in legitimately a good spot. There's other prepper books that cover the rest of it, and I just don't feel like I need to. This covers the niche that I wanted it to cover, and I feel like it thoroughly adequately covers it. There's a million books on canning and jarring and smoking and bug out bags and IFACs. There's a million books on all that stuff, and the SAS handbook and patrols and you know, I think my next one is going to revolve around more around group dynamics. And I think that was the other thing that Bunker, the collector's edition, had, was group dynamics. And I'm like, I was going to put it in Bunker Basics, and I'm like, you know, I'm not going to, because Bunker Basics assumes that you're on your own. Maybe the second one would be called Bunker Buddies. That was originally what I was going to call the first one. Maybe the first one will be called Bunker Basics, the second one will be called Bunker Buddies. So if you're one of the 5 people that listen this far, I really appreciate you. And I am really going to be asking hardcore for help when I re-release Bunker Codes as Bunker Basics. So I could really use everybody's help for that, and I'll let you know. I'm going to be spamming it, and I'm probably going to lose some friends, but I'm going to really need help when I rebrand it, because I really want this to work. I'm going to be pulling out all the stops. So anyway, I appreciate y'all, and hopefully this audio is good. It's absolutely, I mean, it's a little chilly, but I mean, it's just so nice out here. I'm so glad the wind is relaxed. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for being patient with me, and leave a comment, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
I've been sitting here thinking about my life, trying to justify it all, preparing for the next strife. Another car goes by, trying hard as I sigh, knowing we can't go back, facing a future of lies. It'd be a waste even if we could, because status quo feels just too good. People soon simply cannot know how good we had it, except on old TV shows. The lives we've left behind, surrounded by survivors' guilt, life dying on the vine, while everything but faith wilts. What else can we do but move forward and trust what God set in motion? Surround ourselves with good people in this vast dark ocean. Tell the people that you love how you feel every day. Each day we get closer to not being able to say how we really feel, and hold the ones we love close. Don't surround yourself by those you hate, but the ones you'd miss the